Hey, I got a couple questions for you. What if you could wake up, look at your smartphone, and see a number that would be indicative of whether your body was fighting off an illness, even before you felt sick? And if this same number could give you feedback on the function of your nervous system, and if this number could give you a little bit of information on the state of your cardiovascular health, which is related to heart attack and stroke, and this same number would even be an indicator of your readiness for athletic activities, for athletic performance. Well, the cool thing is that if you have a smart device and you're a wearable device, you have this already. This number is heart rate variability. And it's something that I wish I had access to back when I was racing my bike full time. And I think it would have changed a lot of things on how I trained and how I recovered. My name is Aaron Shaw. I am your podcast host. And today we are going to talk about heart rate variability and how it affects your health span. Health span is the duration of time within your lifespan that you are healthy, active, and vibrant. And it is something that I am very passionate about. I've had an almost 30-year career in the health and fitness industry, and I've practiced as an occupational therapist and a certified hand therapist, a strength coach. I've been a health and fitness columnist, and I've written or co-authored book chapters and published articles and presented at conferences. Really, the topics are always around health, fitness, and ultimately the term that we talk about today, which is health span. So I'm an enthusiast. I'm a middle-aged guy. I'm a Gen X guy. And these things become much more important to me as time goes on. And I don't have the luxury of youth because it's wasted on the young, and I'm not young anymore. So it's really important to me to dig into this stuff. And the purpose of this podcast is to take often broad and very scientific topics and try to simplify them into cut to the chase. Here's the main point of this topic, and make sure that I leave you with one action item you can start today to extend your health span. And today we're going to be talking about heart rate variability, which we call HRV. So we're going to talk about three things today. First thing, I'm going to define what HRV is and why it matters. I'm going to give you 7 tips on how you can control your HRV and reap all the benefits of it from you controlling this. So it is something that you absolutely have control over. And then, as with all my podcasts, I'm going to leave you with one action item that you can start today to extend your health span. And yes, it is going to be related to heart rate variability. So what is HRV? Well, heart rate variability is literally the variance in time between your heartbeats, measured in milliseconds. So there's a number. For example, if your HRV was 35, that is 35 milliseconds is the number that we're referring to. And one way to think about this is that when you think about your heart rate, so let's just say, for example, that you measuring your heart rate right now and it's 60 beats per minute. Well, 60 beats per minute does not mean that your heart is beating literally once per second. There is a very natural, irregular form to our heartbeat. And so between two beats, there may be 0.8 of a second. Between another two beats, it could be 1.1 seconds or 1.2 seconds. And so it's that variability is the variable part of heart rate variability. And the greater the variability, so the bigger that number is an indicator of, from an athletic perspective, your readiness to perform. Like, how ready are you to engage in a physically demanding activity? It's also really a balance. It's a reflection of our balance of our nervous system, our autonomic nervous system. And this HRV, these numbers, was really initially applied to acute emergency medical situations, but that number is really expanded, and lately there's been a bunch of research on athletic performance. So it's super interesting for those of us that are still pursuing or interested in pursuing athletic performance. But even if you're not, I think it's still a great measure of all those things that I led this podcast off with. So it's a great reflection of your overall health. So this heart rate variability is controlled by two parts of our autonomic nervous system. There's two branches, if you will. And one branch is the ramp up branch, and one branch is the chill out branch. One is the fight or flight, The other is a what we call rest and digest. The ramp it up, fight or flight, run from a bear, sort of kick into overdrive branch is what we call the sympathetic nervous system. And the flip side of that is the parasympathetic nervous system. It's the calm down, it's the quieting of our nervous system. The HRV is a reflection of how well these are in balance. The higher our HRV number is indicating that our body is capable of adapting to both the ramp up and the chill out. It means that we are ready to perform quick, active athletic events. And it also means that our body can quiet down the parasympathetic, the rest and digest, to our body can quiet down enough to recover from these activities. And so we want a higher HRV number. That is the goal. And really, why does this number matter at all? Well, I'll talk about a couple of things. One is a higher HRV number really is a reflection of how resilient we are to stress, like all the stress, the demands of life. It is, in turn, is related to our, better long-term health outcomes. But really, one thing that piques my interest mostly is that it's associated with better cardiovascular health. So a higher HRV is indicative of better cardiovascular health. Whenever you think of cardiovascular disease or reducing cardiovascular disease, the first thing that comes to my mind is heart attacks and stroke. So, two things you never want to see in your medical record: heart attack and stroke. And so, if there is something that we can do to control that risk, sign me up. And literally being aware of our HRV and controlling our HRV, which again, I'm going to give you 7 things you can do to control your own HRV, super important. Unfortunately, as we age, as we all do, this thing happens where our autonomic nervous system, the balance, our HRV, if you will show decreased resilience. It's such a bummer. I mean, I can go on a long list of things that progressively suck about getting older, but it is what it is. So as we get older, our HRV tends to decrease. So it tends to show this deterioration of our resilience, overall physiological resilience. But as I'll get to, there are things we can do to deal with that. So we're not throwing in the towel just because we got gray hair in my beard, for example. So the punchline here is HRV, great for cardiovascular health. It is a great reflection of our ability to adapt to stress. It has a relationship to athletic performance. A higher number means you're more ready to perform athletically. And that could be obviously for competition, but also just straight up exercise, going to the gym, going for a jog, doing a big hike, whatever it is, a full day of skiing. You're more likely to perform well with those things if you have a higher HRV number. Conversely, if your numbers are decreasing, that may be indicative of your body fighting off a cold, for example. It's fighting something off that sometimes your body will be fighting this off before you even feel symptoms. So that just means your nervous system is busy doing something before we perceive it, perhaps. And so knowing this number, we should respect this number because it's a reflection of, it's almost like a mirror into our inner system. And this will enable us to make decisions upon the activity that we're going to do, and certainly make decisions on how we can increase our HRV. So the next question should be, well, what is a good HRV? What is normal? And this is what is all too often in physiology, is that there's is no pure number that should be normal. I will fully disclose my numbers here just as a range for over the past week. So I looked at my numbers, and mine was as low as 20. And that was a day where I felt like absolute garbage. Looking back, I had a very big training day, did not sleep well. I had to get up early and go to my office and do some things. And I just didn't recover well. And so actually my wearable device gave me a 5% recovery for the day. So I basically woke up on E, or pretty damn near E to start with. So that was a 20 HRV. Within the same week, I had an HRV of 38, and that was after sleeping like a champ. And after sleeping like a champ and, of course, eating well and being well hydrated, I went up and I felt great. I actually have a couple great days of training because of that, or it's, a reflection that my body was ready to perform. So those numbers are unique to me. And really what's key is that if you're going to start tracking this, that those numbers, again, are just, you have to look at your numbers over time. So it's unique to you. So how can you improve your HRV? How can you reap the rewards of cardiovascular health, athletic performance, having a balanced nervous system, and perhaps even extend your lifespan and health span? Well, we're going to talk about 7 things that you have complete control over, starting with, this isn't going to be a surprise, exercise. It's appropriate exercise and training. So there's plenty of studies out there that show that regular exercise, and again, thoughtful exercise that's unique to you, is a really great way to improve your heart rate variability. And really what I would say, in addition to this, sort of the caveat with this, or the other benefit for those of us that are still competing, being competitive athletes, there can be a trend for some of us to overtrain. So, and again, looking back when I was racing all the time, like I know there were times when I was overtrained and just kept on pushing through. And I wish that this technology was around and I had access to it so I could see how terrible my HRV was. But it can be an indicator for those of you that are athletic and training consistently. It can be an indicator that you are overtraining perhaps and you need more recovery. So, but exercise in general is excellent way to improve your heart rate variability. Second thing is healthy nutrition. Again, not super surprising. We're talking about whole foods, nutritious foods. If you're ordering by numbers fast food and everything's deep fried, not great. So you can expect there to be a higher heart rate variability, better health overall when you are feeding your body good nutrition. It will support a higher heart rate variability. And even, with that, I would add in the timing of your food can be a big factor. So, resist trying to go to bed 30 minutes after eating a big pizza, because that will it'll force your body to divide its efforts into digesting a pizza or whatever your dinner happened to be, and focusing on recovering and restoring your body. And your body will have to divide energy, and so therefore you won't sleep as well. So it's both eating well and the timing of it is really, timing of your nutrition is important too for your sleep specifically. It can actually screw up your circadian rhythms, which I did another episode on that, so you can check out that. The third thing, hydration, staying well hydrated. Literally, like, the level of your blood in your body, the volume of blood in your body is related to how hydrated you are. So hydration matters. Stay hydrated. The fourth thing, this is the one we all got to kind of deal with. Don't drink alcohol. There's a very direct, absolute, very, very clear line for me. If I have a beer or two in an evening, I sleep like garbage, and my heart rate variability pays the consequences as well. And I feel it. So if you can cut back on alcohol, great. There's some data that'll show that it can take days for your body to recover from having too many drinks one night. Number 5, sleep well and sleep consistently. This goes back to circadian rhythms a little bit, but basically going to bed at the same time every night, waking up at the same time, or as close to it as possible, absolutely affects your HRV. Number 6, this is one that I have yet to try. So it's doing the cold plunges, basically. So it's cold showers, cold plunges, ice baths, and I'm just not tough enough to do it, I don't think. But the idea is that it stimulates a nerve. It's called the vagus nerve. So it stimulates a nerve that actually activates the parasympathetic nervous system. It stimulates the chill out, no pun intended, or perfectly intended, perhaps. It chills out your nervous system. So it controls and really will have a positive influence on your heart rate variability. And the 7th thing that can help with your HRV is breathing control, slow breathing. So almost like meditative breathing. So that has been shown to stimulate your parasympathetic nervous system and really improve your heart rate variability. So there are 7 things that are no medications, well within our grasp. More power to you if you can do the cold plunge. But a lot of these things, and I would headline with all things, and I'm certainly biased to this, but exercise, healthy diet, and sleep. If you can knock those 3 things out, your heart rate variability is probably going to be on point more often than not, and you're going to reap all the benefits from that. So those are the big things. So that brings us to, what is the one thing you can do today to extend your health span? And yes, it's related to heart rate variability. We all have access, very reasonable access, to data, to wearables that will give you your unique HRV number every single day. The simplest thing for us to do should be to be aware of our own HRV, to be aware of our own heart rate variability, and how it affects our performance, how it affects our health, and to be able to control it, know the variables that control it. So the one thing you can do is, if you don't already have a wearable, get one. And if you have one, press the buttons, figure out how to check out your HRV. A lot of these are kind of built into some of the things that I see a ton of people wearing, which is an Apple Watch, any sort of smartwatch. There are rings like Aura Ring for people who don't like things on their wrists. There's the Whoop, and there's endless other ones that are out there. And I'm sure that by the time I record and post this, there'll be 10 more wearables out there that'll show this data. So is it perfectly accurate? I am not sure. I would say probably not. My guess and my hope is that those numbers are directionally accurate. So if you wear the same device all the time, you're comparing your numbers against you. So that's what's most important. But your one thing is to get a device, wear a device, track the numbers even for 1 week. Most of these devices will, give you a report or a printout or an email that'll show you. But even if they don't, you can just wake up, look on your phone, look on your smart device, see your HRV that day, write it down on a piece of paper if you have to. Next to that, document how you feel that day. Was it, even if it's just, hey, I felt so-so. Hey, I felt pretty darn good. Hey, I felt like a rock star, felt super energetic. And you can, even just by doing that for a week, you're going to be able to start correlating your HRV with how you feel. And once you do that for a week, it's going to be very natural. You're going to start to be curious, like, hey, there is a connection here. Like when my HRV is at a certain level, I feel this certain way. How do I recreate those days where I feel good? That's key. I think a lot of us, we tend to kind of focus on the days that we feel crappy, which is very normal. But when we feel good, we just kind of roll with it. And I really work with my clients to take pause on those days where, hey, you feel really good today. That's great. What happened? Like, let's recreate that. How do we do that? How did you sleep? What did you eat? What was your stress level like? What was your activity like? And only through tracking this can we really get this data. So I'm a big advocate of tracking stuff, especially technology right now is crazy, super available. And for the technology, it is pretty damn cheap. So that's the action item. Track it, control it. You have absolute control of your heart rate variability. Listed off 7 things you can do to improve your heart rate variability, which will improve your health span, likely improve your longevity, certainly improve your vitality, your cardiovascular health, and your athletic performance. So if you can get all that stuff legally with no drugs, then that's pretty damn cool. So give it a shot. As always, I would ask that you please subscribe and share this podcast. I love sharing this stuff. Most of the stuff in the world I don't know squat about, but health and fitness is my jam. I love talking about it. I love learning about it for very selfish reasons, for my own aging and athletic goals. But share this if you would. And if you want more detailed information, you can check out the show notes. I'll put a link in to sign up for my newsletter. And this newsletter I send out to my VIP coaching clients. And if you're interested, I'm happy to send that to you as well. And until then, track your HRV, exercise regularly, have a thoughtful program that's unique to you, your goals, get some good sleep, hydrate, eat whole foods, and do it consistently. That's the key. All right. Till next time. Cheers.